Sophia, thank you very much for making some time to speak to us. I was interested in a number of things that you raised when you were on the panel earlier today, and perhaps we could start with your statement that part of what's going to drive better use of technology and transfer that technology into real innovation in Africa has to be decisions from leadership, from sort of national strategies on how to do that. Could you maybe explain that a bit, and perhaps there's some examples of countries that have gotten that right?
Very well. Thanks for having me on the panel today. It's a real opportunity to bring out the issue of innovation, profitability, and adoption by the general public on ICT. And definitely, as I have mentioned on the panel, the leadership of Africa is now acknowledged that ICT is a driver for economic development. And most of, like anything else, most of the services and businesses start in the cities. And now, I think for the last decade, the city has embraced, urbanization, connectivity, connected cities, and had started in the cities. Now, the whole idea is how do we drive innovation to the rural areas? And I'm pretty sure with the same notion of accepting ICT as a driver and the rural area being included as part of the population, the leadership in Africa has also acknowledged that. But there needs to be more policy development process on how to actualize the rural areas to be part of it. Why the rural is very important? Because we don't want to bring the farmers to the city. We want technology to go to them. And there is no need to populate cities or overpopulate cities where the opportunities. So we try to take technology where the opportunities are. And 80% of Africa's economy is in agriculture. So obviously somebody in the leadership has to think of how do we include these agricultural services and how do we reach out to them. And so rural development strategy is very important. One country that got it right, honestly, is my own country, Ethiopia. They are focusing and having a priority for rural development because most of the mobile services have reached out there.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Kenya, where I have my operation for business, because of bandwidth, there is a lot of internet flexibility there.
Sure.
The rural strategies has not developed yet, but I think M-Pesa, because of the M-Pesa, that has the innovation in M-Pesa has automatically driven it. So it's not like Ethiopia, for example. It wasn't driven by the mobile. It was a strategy that existed there
Right.
already. So it's an acceptance of the leadership, knowing that to include the rural. So those are the kind of communications that need to be there in terms of having a national policy to address rural.
And the rural inclusion is going to come about at least in the near term from use of mobile technologies, because clearly
Yes.
the cost of bringing fiber optic is prohibitive.
It's not going to happen. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, inclusion is urban and rural, but inclusion also can be about the gender divide as well, and I know that's something that you care greatly about. Are efforts being made to include both girls and women in terms of technology development?
Okay. I think there's a lot of talk, and us, we advocate. So I think it's a good start. But ICT has been, in the past, a man's tool. And when I say
This
that,
is not just an African problem.
This is
a
not
problem
an African.
elsewhere
Yes,
too.
I was actually raised and educated in the USA, and I was one of the very few women in the technology field, which is also an emerging technology, IT audit, it was called. So I know what it's like to be in a group of workforce, being just a woman.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came to Africa, it's absolutely isolating, in fact. So I think because of the social media and because the integration, it's not developing programs anymore. The current technology is a convergent technology. Women can embrace it. It's not so difficult that we used to think. So so the social media has driven a lot of women to be online and talk and chat, and we see a lot more demographics show that Twitters and Facebooks are being used more by women than men.
Right.
Even in corporate situations. So therefore, I think women can start communicating with their own devices as an expert user, and then also be in the marketing end, because I see a lot of women are majoring in marketing in marketing field than they do in engineering field. And so we're trying to say, no, it's not that bad. It's not a man's field anymore. Go and get educated in ICT, and you will find work and opportunities there. And so we're trying to set example. I even had an interview or a speaking engagement just a month ago or something, where I actually said the internet is a she. The reason I said that is because more women are out there speaking on the internet. More voices are out there, and they don't really have to go through a formal system of institution to make their voices heard. You can be a blogger, you can set up your own website and do the things you need to do. So I think women need to know this exists.
Well, that's of course one of the extraordinary things about the internet and the new tools we have is the old hierarchies have been subverted. And so, in terms of gender as well as in terms of other social hierarchies.
Right.
And so it's a question of just making people more aware of this, do you think?
I think it's a lot more aware. Even in Gabon, when I came here, I spoke to a lot of the women outside the conference that I've seen, Gabonese women, and how much they are involved in technology. I don't see that a lot. So, I mean, West Africa is probably less than East Africa. So I think we need to balance this, and there has to be another push for Africa, for women to be involved, for youth to be involved, and that rural strategy I talked about. And I think the leadership needs to know. Entrepreneurship should be encouraged in Africa, because the formal structures of employment sector is not there, it doesn't exist, but also it doesn't exist in Silicon Valley.
Sure.
And you know how entrepreneurship is highly celebrated. Actually, Silicon Valley is, they say, it's a place, you only excel when you fail.
Yeah.
So African leadership needs to accept that failure is part of the entrepreneurship, and it's okay if a person starts a project and fails, and then they will be celebrated and then move on. So that's the way I see Africa happening.
Right. And do you think that acceptance of failure is being acceptable, and you move on and you learn from it?
Absolutely.
You don't make the same mistake twice.
Yeah.
But is that being accepted in the culture?
It should be accepted because there is no other formal structure of even employment. There is no, there is no Fortune 500 company in Africa.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, the African economy is really needs to be embraced by entrepreneurship. Even in America now, in the last 10 years is when they start teaching entrepreneurship as a curriculum, because after seeing how Silicon Valley has innovated, and you don't have to be an MBA or a PhD and be part of the dream of the Fortune 500 company. People can actually go and and innovate and be accepted if there is a market, and the market accepts your product. Who is the one to call you that you should have gone through a structured or formal education system? And I think we're trying to do that in Africa.
But I think if you look at the informal sector in Africa, there are a lot of entrepreneurs in Africa.
That's driving.
So I think part of the challenge is transforming that sort of entrepreneurship into a kind of wider entrepreneurship that can maybe get to the next level.
Exactly. And also the governance structures. People who are entrepreneurs do not understand governance per se. So what's acceptable in business, what's not. So the business ethics need to be part of the entrepreneurship training, so people don't take risky positions in dealing business. So I think these are all the things that need to be considered.
Great. Well, it's a very good agenda for us to look at.
Oh,
thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you.